Hi, everyone, and welcome to the very first lesson in our Ultimate Excel course, where we are going to take you from complete beginner to Excel expert in just 12 action packed lessons. We'll dive into everything you need to know, starting with the basics like data entry, simple calculations and functions, then gradually advancing to complex topics like creating interactive dashboards like this one. By the end of this course, you'll have a solid understanding of Excel's full range of capabilities, including how to automate tasks in Excel with the simple click of a button. Also, all the lesson files used in the tutorials will be available for download from the link provided in the description box below. So buckle up, hit that subscribe button, and let's dive into lesson one. This is what you see when you start Excel for the first time. You can either open a blank workbook or start with one of the numerous templates provided by Microsoft. Since this is our first time, let's keep it simple and select blank workbook. Now, an Excel file is called a workbook, which can contain multiple worksheets. We will come to that in a bit. Let's take a look at the main components of the Excel interface first. At the top, you'll see the ribbon, which is a collection of tabs, each containing a group of related commands. The tabs include Home, Insert, Formulas, Data, and so on. Now, each tab is divided into groups. Like on the Home tab, we can see that we have font, alignment, number, styles, and so on. The area down here is called the worksheet area, where you create your worksheet. Let's make this bigger by zooming in the work area. Press and hold the control key and scroll up on your mouse to zoom in. All right, so these small boxes are called cells where data is entered and stored. Now, if you can notice that these cells are organized in rows and columns. The letters at the top of the worksheet represent columns, and the numbers on the left side represent rows. Now, let's click somewhere in the work area. This gray highlighting and green border means that this cell is selected. We can also call this the active cell, which is the intersection of column D and row 7. To enter data into a cell, just start typing. A cell can contain text, numbers, or formulas. Let's type in A, B, C, 1, 2, 3. And we press Control, Enter to remain in the same cell. Now, just below the ribbon on the left, you'll find the name box, which displays the address or name of the currently selected cell, which is D7. Just beside the name box, to the right, you'll find the formula bar, which displays the contents of the active cell, which in this case is ABC123. Now let's do some basic math in Excel. Click somewhere in the work area, type in an equal sign. All formulas start with an equal sign. Then I'll type in 2. I type in 2 plus 2 plus 4. And now I'll press Control Enter. The answer is 8, as we can see. Now, if you look up at the formula bar here, it will show you the formula and not the final answer. The cell shows you the final answer. When you double click a cell, you can see that it has a number or a formula in it. I'll press escape. You can also press F2 to check the contents of the active cell. I'll press escape again. All right. Now, instead of adding numbers within a cell, you can also reference cells to make adding a bit easier. Let me show you how. Let's enter one more number. Now, let's create a formula that adds the cells. Type in an equal sign, then click the cell you want to add, then a plus sign, then the next cell, and press enter. Now, if you change any number, the result automatically updates. Let's change this to 8. See, the answer automatically updates. You can also add many cells this way, not just 2. You can even add cells and numbers. I will start with an equal sign, press the up arrow key to select the cell right above the active cell. Then I will enter a plus sign and then one more number and press enter. Now, subtracting is also similar to adding, except you use the minus sign. Type in equal sign, click a cell, then a minus sign, then another cell, and press enter. Multiplying is similar to adding or subtracting, except you use the asterisk sign. Type in equal sign, click a cell, then the asterisk sign, click another cell, press enter. Dividing is also similar to the rest, except you use the forward slash. Type in an equal sign, select a cell, and the forward slash, and then you select another cell, and then you press enter. At the bottom right of the Excel window on the status bar, you'll find the page view options and the zoom slider. Click the plus sign to zoom in gradual increments, and the minus sign to zoom out. To the left, you'll find the sheet tabs. By default, a new workbook contains one sheet, but you can add more sheets by clicking on the plus icon to the right of the sheet tabs. You can also add new sheets by going to the Home tab on the ribbon, and under the cells group, click on Insert, and then select Insert Sheet. You can also insert a new sheet by using the keyboard shortcut Shift F11. As you can see at the bottom, a new sheet has been added. Now, in order to delete a sheet, simply right-click the Sheet tab and select Delete. You can also delete a sheet by going under the Home tab, under the Cells group, click on Delete, and then select Delete Sheet. All right. Now, by default, a new sheet is called Sheet 1. And then if you add further new sheets, it will be called Sheet 2, Sheet 3, and so on. But you can change that to keep worksheets organized and clearly labeled. In order to rename a sheet, simply double-click the Sheet tab and type in a name and press Enter. You can even change the color of the Sheet tab by right-clicking the Sheet tab and then choosing a tab color. I'll choose green. As you can see, the tab color of this sheet is green. All right. If you want to create a copy of the worksheet you just created, you can do so by right-clicking the Sheet tab and then selecting Move or Copy. In this dialog box, under the To Book drop-down list, select where you want to move the worksheet. If you want to move the worksheet to a new workbook, select New Book, or else you can move it to an existing workbook which is currently open. For example, for this example, we'll just keep it to the same book, which is Book 2. After that, you need to select the position where you want the worksheet to be moved. We will select Move to End, and then below that, we will check the box where it says Create a Copy, and then click on OK. Now, as you can see, an exact same copy of the worksheet has been created. All right, so these were the very basics of Excel. Now let's move on to the next part. All right, before we begin this chapter, please be reminded that you can download the lesson file from the link provided in the description box below and follow along. All right, so we have a data set here with 4 columns of data. Product ID, revenue, GP margin percent. Now, let's format this group of related data to make it look more presentable. In order to do that, select any one cell inside the range. On the Home tab, under the Styles group, click on Format as Table, and then select the tables that you want. I'll go for this one. Now, as you can see, Excel has selected the correct range, and there is this dialog box which asks us whether our table has headers or not. We'll leave this checked and click on OK. All right, so if you notice, we have a new tab called Table Design at the top now, which provides various tools and options to customize and manage tables. We can assign a name to this table for easier reference in formulas and navigation. Let's name this table Products. Press Enter. Now we learn more about the usefulness of tables in our future lessons when we work with large sets of data. All right, now under table style options, you can customize the appearance of the table. Let's uncheck the filter button and check banded columns. You can also apply a different color scheme or formatting style by selecting the style you want on the table styles. You can select a different style as you hover your cursor over a style. You can see it on the screen. All right, so we'll just leave it at this and move on. All right, now let's adjust the column width of this column, the products column, because some of the names cannot be totally seen. In order to do that, hover your mouse over the line separating the two column headers. You'll note that the cursor changes to a double-headed arrow. Click and drag to adjust the column width. Release the mouse button when you're satisfied with the width. Now, we could have also auto-adjusted the column by double-clicking on the double-headed arrow. Let's undo this by pressing Ctrl Z. Now this time, let's double-click the double-headed arrow. As you can see that this has automatically fit the longest data within this column. You can also do the same with a row. Now, let's change the number format of the revenue column. In order to do that, select the first line item, press Ctrl Shift down arrow to select all the figures in this column. Now we'll go to the Home tab. Under the number group, in number format, we'll select currency. Now we don't want the decimal point, so we'll click on decrease decimal twice to remove the decimals. Okay, now let's change the number format of GP margin percent. This time, instead of selecting all the cells manually, we will hover the cursor on the top of this column until it changes to a arrow sign pointing downwards. Click on it to select all the cells. Now under the number group, we'll select percent style. We could have also achieved the same by using the keyboard shortcut Control Shift 5. All right, just to let you all know that you don't need to jot down any keyboard shortcuts discussed in this lesson. They're all compiled in the lesson file that you can download from the link in the description box below. Okay, moving on. Now let's add a column which will calculate the gross profit value. In the header row, right beside GP margin percent, select the cell and start typing gross profit and press enter. As you can see, the table has been automatically updated to include the gross profit column. Now let's type in the formula. Type in an equal sign, press the left arrow key twice to select the revenue, then an asterisk, and then the left arrow key once to select the GP margin percent. Press enter. Now we need the same formula in this cell as well. Instead of typing the formula again, move your cursor to the bottom right corner of the cell. You will see a small plus sign. This is called the fill handle. Click and drag the fill handle downwards to autofill the cells below with the same function. Release the mouse button when you are done. So as you can see, just like that, the function has been copied down. We can verify that by selecting any one cell and pressing F2. As you can notice that Excel has automatically adjusted the cell references. This is called relative referencing. We will learn more about this in a bit. Okay, so moving on. Now there's one more easier way of autofilling the cells. Let's undo this by pressing Ctrl Z. Now, instead of dragging, you can double click the fill handle. When you double click it, Excel will automatically fill down to the last cell. This is very useful when you have a large data set. Okay, now let's add a total row to the revenue column. In order to do that, select the cell right below the last line item. Now on the Home tab, under the Editing group, open the drop-down list for Auto Sum and select Sum. So as you can see, a total row has been added for the revenue column. Now, even for GP margin percent, we want the same. But this time, from the drop down list, we'll select average because we want the average gross profit margin percent. Now for gross profit, we need the total, so we'll select sum. So this is how you can add a total row to your table. Now, what if we wanted to add one more column between two columns, like between gross profit margin and gross profit? Let's do it. Select the gross profit column and then under the cells group on the home tab, click on insert and then click on insert sheet columns. We could have also achieved the same by pressing Control plus on your keyboard. All right. So we'll name this column cost of revenue. Let's type in cost of revenue and press enter. Now for cost of revenue, type in an equal sign, press the left arrow key twice to select revenue, then the minus sign, then the right arrow key once, select gross profit and press enter. Select the cell, double click the fill handle to send it down to the end. All right. So we have added a new column. Now let's delete a column. Suppose we don't need the product ID column. We don't need this column. So we can simply delete the entire column by selecting the entire column like this. And then in the home tab, under cells group, click on delete and then select delete sheet columns. We could have also achieved the same by using the keyboard shortcut key Control minus. All right now. So when you look at this data, you cannot make sense of it at a glance because there are no visual cues. In order to highlight important data points, we can use conditional formatting. First, select the range of cells that you want to apply conditional formatting to. In this case, we will select the entire revenue column. And then under the Home tab, click on Conditional Formatting. Then under Color Scales, we will select the first color gradient. Now, when you look at the revenue for different products, you can easily spot the highest and the highest in green and the lowest in red. All right, now let's select GP margin percent column and apply a different conditional formatting this time. This time we'll go for data bars. Click on conditional formatting, data bars, and we'll select the first one. Now let's do the same for the gross profit column. Select the entire cell. But this time under conditional formatting, we will choose top bottom rules and we'll choose bottom 10 items. Click on OK. So as you can see, the bottom 10 items in this table have been highlighted in red. So as you can see, conditional formatting helps you quickly identify trends and patterns in your data. We will learn about this in details in a later lesson. All right, let's move on to the next part. Okay, so here we have the same data set, but this time to make this data look presentable, we will use predefined formats. For the headings, we need to use this. For the text part, we need to use this. For values, this. And for all the percents, this. How can we do this? We can use the format painter. All right, so first click on the cell, a range of cells with the formatting you want to copy. For the headers, I'll select this. Then under the home tab, in the clipboard style, in the clipboard group, we'll click on format painter. Now you'll be able to see that the cursor has changed to a paintbrush icon, which means that the format painter is active. Now click and drag the formatting over the desired range, which is the header part. And just like that, formatting has been applied to the headers. Now let's apply formatting for the text part. Select both cells, click on Format Painter, and now click and drag where you want to apply the formatting. Release the mouse button to apply the formatting. Okay, now let's do the same for the values. But for this one, we have to apply the same formatting to multiple places which are not adjacent to each other. So this time we have to lock the Format Painter by double clicking the Format Painter. So let's select the cells. Now this time double click the Format Painter to lock it. Now apply the formatting to the values. So when you lock the Format Painter, this allows you to apply the copied formatting to multiple locations without reactivating it each time. After you're done applying the formatting, press Escape to exit the Format Painter mode. Now let's finally change the formatting of the GP margin percent. Select both cells, click on Format Painter, apply the formatting till the end. So with the help of the Format Painter, you can maintain a consistent look and feel across your Excel workbooks. Now let's scroll up. Now let's change the heading. Let's make the heading of this table look a lot better. Okay, so select the cell and then select the adjacent cells like this, and then click on Merge and Center under Alignment. This will combine and center the contents in a new larger cell. Now click on Middle Align. Now under the fonts group, we'll change the font. Change it to Copper Plate Gothic. Let's type in Copper Plate so you can already see it there. Press Enter. Now we'll also change the font size. We'll increase it to 18 and press enter. Now you can notice that some parts of the text are missing. To fix that, we'll click on wrap text, which will wrap extra long text into multiple lines. Now we need to do more modifications. So let's open the Format Cells dialog box by pressing Ctrl 1. Under Font, let's change the color of the font to dark green. Let's select this. Under Border, let's select this line style, and let's select a color. We'll go for dark green for this one as well. Now what we need to do is apply the border to all the sides of the cell. All right. Okay, so after this is done, we'll move to fill and select light green color for the background of this cell. Now click on OK. So as you saw, with just a few clicks, we have made this data set look a lot more presentable. Now let's move on to the next part. In this chapter, we will learn about cell referencing. Now, this is a fundamental concept in Excel which you will need in most of your operations. Cell referencing simply involves pointing to or referring to specific cells or ranges of cells in a worksheet. In Excel, there are three main types of cell references. Let's take a look at the first one, which is relative cell referencing. Now, this is a type of cell referencing where the reference changes based on its relative position when copied or dragged to another cell or range. Let's find out how in this example. We have a list of names along with sales value and commission percent. Now we need to calculate the commission amount for each employee. Let's get started. Type an equal sign, press the left arrow key twice to select the sales value, then an asterisk, and press the left arrow key once to select the percent, press enter. Select the cell Double click the fill handle and send it down. All right, so now if we double click any cell, we can see that the formula has been copied down properly and the reference has changed according to its relative position. Let's move on to the next one, which is absolute or fixed cell referencing. We have the same data. This time, the commission percent for all sales are fixed at 12.5%. Let's calculate the commission amount. Type an equal sign, press the left arrow key once to select the sales value, then an asterisk, then select the fixed commission percent, press enter, double click and send it down. But hey, this time it did not work. So if you can see that as the commission percent was not fixed, this has been moving down along with the sales value, like our previous example. We need to keep the fixed commission amount percent fixed. This cell should not move. Let's try it. Let's delete this first. Select all the cells. Let's delete. Let's double click on this. Now, while this is selected, the fixed commission percent, press the F4 key once. Now, you'll notice that there are two dollar signs, one before column J and one before the row number, which is 32. This means that the cell is fixed and won't move when copying down. All right, now we'll press Control Enter. Double click the fill handle to send it down. See, this time, this is perfect. While the sales values have been relative, the fixed commission percent is fixed. All right, let's move on to the next one, which is mixed cell referencing. Here we have the same data, but with 5 different commission percents. And we need to type a single formula here, which we can copy down and to the right, which will give us the correct result. Down and to the right. We can use mixed cell referencing for this. In a mixed cell reference, one part of the reference, either the row or the column, remains constant, while the other part adjusts when the formula is copied or dragged. Let me show you how. Now, looking at this, you might think that if we keep the header fixed and the rows relative, then we can calculate the amount, which is correct. Let's try it out. If this is relative, then the commission percent, if we make this fixed, then when we drag it down, this is working. But when we drag this to the right, this is not correct, as the cell to the left has been moving while the commission percent is fixed at the top. So this won't work. Let's delete this first. What we need to do is we need to keep the rows fixed while copying the formula to the right, but it should be relative when we are copying it down. The same goes for the formula header, the column header, which needs to be fixed when copying the formula down, but needs to change when we copy the formula to the right. Let's find out how we can achieve this. Type in equal sign and then select the sales value. Press the left arrow key once to select the sales value. And now, what we do is we press the F4 key twice so that the dollar sign now is in front of the column, which is F. This means that the column has been locked while the row remains relative. Now type in asterisk sign, press the up arrow key once, select the percent. Now you need to press the F4 key twice so that the dollar sign now is in front of the row number. This means that the row has been locked while the column remains relative. Let's press Control Enter. Double click and send it down. And now while holding down the Shift key, press the right right arrow key 4 times, and then press Control R to send the formula to the right. Great, this time it has worked. Let's double click a cell and verify. So each time the sales values have been moving down and the commission percents have been moving to the right. Great, let's move on to the next chapter. In this chapter, we will learn about name manager and formula auditing in Excel. All right. So here we have an income statement. We need to calculate total revenue, gross profit, operating income, and so on. Let's get started. For calculating total revenue, type an equal sign, and now we will use the sum function. So type sum, open parenthesis, select the first number, type a comma, select the second number, close parenthesis, press enter. All right. So now let's calculate the total cost of revenue, but this time we will use the keyboard shortcut key Alt equal and press enter. Now let's calculate gross profit, which is total revenue minus total cost of revenue. But we are not going to do it this way. Instead, we will name the cells first and then perform the calculation. Named ranges allow you to refer to cells or groups of cells with meaningful names, making formulas easier to understand. I'll show you what I'm talking about. First, select the total revenue value along with its description on the left. Then go to the Formulas tab. Under Define Names, click on Create from Selection. A dialog box will appear, which will ask you the source of the value, which in this case is the left column. So we leave this checked and click on OK. We'll do the same for total cost of revenue, but this time we will use the keyboard shortcut Control Shift F3 and press Enter. All right, now let's calculate gross profit. Type an equal sign, and now start typing total revenue. And we can already see our named range here. So I'll select this and press Tab, then a minus sign. Then we'll type in total. Let's select this, the total cost of revenue. Now press Enter. Now, when we press F2 and check the formula, it shows us that gross profit is total revenue minus total cost of revenue, which is more readable than A2 or B2. Now let's name this range as well. Press Escape, select gross profit along with the value, press Control Shift F3 and press Enter. All right, now let's calculate the total operating expenses. We are going to do the same. Press Alt equal, press Control Enter, select the cell to the left, Control Shift F3, press Enter. All right, so operating income is gross profit minus total operating expenses. So type an equal sign and look for the named range gross profit, press Tab, then minus sign, then type in total operating expenses. Select it, press Control Enter. Now using the same steps as earlier, let's name this range as well. Control Shift F3, left column, that is correct, press Enter. Now, if you click on Name Manager upon the ribbon, you'll be able to see all the names that we have added. You can also add new names by clicking on New, or you can edit an existing name here as well. Okay, so let's close this. So moving on, let's calculate gross margin and operating margin. So gross margin is gross profit divided by total revenue. So we'll type in an equal sign, type in gross profit. When you find it, press tab, / total revenue. Select it, press tab. Now press enter. Okay, let's do the next one. Operating margin, which is, let's type in equal sign, operating income divided by total revenue. All right, so we have these values. So select both cells, press Control Shift 5 to change this to a percent format. All right, so now we are done calculating all the metrics. So let's inspect and understand the relationships behind the formulas now. In order to do that, we will use the formula auditing tools. So suppose you would like to know how we arrive at this value and see what cells are involved in the calculation. So first select the cell and then go to the formulas tab. Under formulas tab, under formula auditing tools, let's click on trace precedence. Now Excel will draw arrows to show the cells that are used in the calculation of the selected cell. Now in this case, this cell has multiple precedents. So when we click on it again, we can see how gross profit was calculated. Keep clicking until you get the error sound. All right, so now all these arrows indicate which cells affect the values of the currently selected cell, which is this one. So basically any changes in any of these figures will change operating income and eventually this figure. When you're done inspecting, click on remove arrows. Now, tracing dependence is the complete opposite of tracing precedence. So let's find out which cells are dependent on total revenue. Let's select the cell, then click on trace dependence. Keep clicking until you get the error sound. So as you can see, all these cells are dependent on this value. Any changes to this cell will impact other parts of the worksheet. Now click on remove arrows to remove the arrows. All right, now let's move on to the next part. Now, let's take a look at the watch window, which can be a very useful tool for constantly monitoring or comparing specific cells or ranges of cells within your workbook. Let me show you how. We have a data set here, which contains item names, item price, monthly sales, and the total all the way to the right. Now, if we change an item price for evaluation, let's change this to 25. In order to check the total value, we have to scroll all the way to the right to do that. Now you can avoid doing this by adding these cells to the watch window so that we can constantly monitor them. All right, so having these cells selected, under the formulas tab in the formula auditing group, we'll click on watch window. Now we'll click on add watch. Now, as the cells were already selected, Excel knows what cells you want to add to the watch. So we'll just click on add. Now let's increase the size of this window. All right. Now when we change any item price here for evaluation, let's change this to 50 and keep an eye on the watch window. You can see the value updates automatically. So we don't have to move all the way to the right to see the total value. And this window will stick with you wherever you go in the workbook. So this can be very useful when you have a large data set in a complex spreadsheet. All right, so let's close the watch window for now. All right, so there are other ways too, which will help you organize and manage large sets of data more efficiently. Let's use the group feature in Excel to create collapsible sections in this worksheet. Let me show you how. First, let's select the columns that contain the months, the entire columns, all the way from January till December. Now, under the Data tab and under the Outline group, click on Group. Once grouped, you will see a minus sign, small minus sign at the top here. Click on the minus sign and you can collapse the entire group, which will hide the inner columns. Click on the plus sign again to expand the group. You can also create multiple groups within a group. Let me show you how. Select the first 9 months, right click on any of the, no, we'll go up to the data ribbon and click on group. Then we'll do the same for the first 6 months. Click on group and the first 3 months as well. Click on group. So as you can see, there are 3 smaller groups within one large group. In order to collapse any particular group, just click on the minus sign. To expand, click on the plus sign. Now let's group all the columns together. Now as you can see, the item price and the total column are side by side now. So when we change any of the values here, let's change this to 100. You can see the total update. All right. So now if you want to remove the grouping structure, returning to the ungrouped state, you need to select all the group columns, January till December, and then click on ungroup. Keep clicking until you have cleared all the groupings. Now, not just columns, you can also group rows. We will learn about this now when we take a look at the subtotal feature in Excel. All right, so we have a data set here in a tabular format with headers, date, item name, and sales value. Now, we'd like to group the item names together and create separate grand totals for each. But before we proceed, we need to ensure that the column which we want to use for grouping, which in this case is item name, is sorted. Let me show you how we can do that. Click on the header, item name, and then in the data ribbon, under sort and filter, click on A to Z. As soon as you click, you'll notice that the item names have now been arranged alphabetically. You can click Z to A as well. It does not matter as long as the column has been sorted. All right, so now let's insert subtotals. Pick any cell within your data table. Go to the data ribbon, click subtotal. Now, let's configure the options in the dialog box. We want to group the data by the item name. So under at each change in, we will select item name. Then select the function you want to apply for the subtotals. You can select from a variety of options, but for now, we will select sum. Finally, we need to select the columns for which we want to calculate the subtotals. In this case, it will remain sales value. Click on OK. Now, as you can see that this data set has been grouped by the item name and subtotals have been added for each item. At the very end, grand total has also been added. Also on the left, you can see the minus signs, clicking on which will collapse the entire group, like we saw in our previous example. Now, we can only see the subtotals for each item and the grand total. So as you can see, this feature can be very useful when you got structured data that is sorted by the column. All right, now, before moving on to the next chapter, I would like to remind you all that this lesson file can be downloaded from the link below. And please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon to stay updated with future notifications. In this chapter, we will learn how to summarize data from separate ranges using the Consolidate feature in Excel. Let me show you what I'm talking about. We have quarterly sales data here for a few products by location. Every single location is in a different sheet. This sheet contains the sales figures for Boston. Then we have Cleveland, Atlanta, and so on. Also, you'll notice that although the values differ in every sheet, the data structures are similar across all the locations, which means that all have the same headers and data type. Now, all we need to do is combine this data from multiple ranges into a single summary table. All right, in order to do that, we will click on the sheet named Consolidate Static. Now click wherever you want to create the consolidated table. Go to the Data tab on the ribbon. Under Data Tools, click on Consolidate. Now let's set up the options. First, you need to select the operation you want to use for consolidation. You can choose from a range of options. For this example, we will choose sum as we need the total sales value. Next, in the reference box, click the collapse button to shrink the panel. And now let's select the data. Click on the first sheet named Boston and select the entire data set. Click on the expand button. Now click on add. Now we need to do the same for the rest of the locations as well. So we will repeat the process. Next, we'll go to Cleveland. So you can notice that Excel has already selected the correct range. This is because in all the sheets, the data starts from cell B2 and has the same size. So we'll just click on add. Let's do the same for the rest of the locations. Let's add Atlanta. Then we'll add Dallas. Now let's set up the rest of the options. Under Use Labels In, make sure to check both top row and left column. And now click on OK. Now, as you can see, the data from all the 4 sheets have been aggregated here. But if you go back to any of the sheets, let's click on Dallas. Yeah. All right. So let's change a figure. Let's change this value to 100,000. But as this is static, you can notice this value did not change. Now let's click on Consolidate Dynamic Sheet and select the cell where you want your table. So this time we will make our table dynamic instead of static. All right. So we'll do the same. We'll click on Consolidate, leave the function as sum. In the reference, we'll add data, perform the same for all the sheets. And then under Use Label In, we'll check left column. And this time we will also check Create Links to Source Data. Now we'll click on OK. All right. So now let's go back with this sheet and let's update this to say 25,000. In the Consolidate Static sheet, you can see that all these figures are static. Nothing changes here. But in this sheet, we can see that this figure has changed. Let's change it again. Let's change this to 10,000. And we can see that this automatically gets updated. All right, moving on. We have a data set here which contains employee names and their respective sales for 3 different months in 3 different sheets. But here you can notice that the size of each table is different and these sheets may not contain the same names. In this case, if we use the consolidate feature and Excel comes across a new unique name, it will just add it to the list or else it will sum up the values like before. So let me show you how. So click on an empty cell and then click on consolidate. We will leave the function as sum. Now let's add the ranges. So click on the click in any of the in any cell inside the range and then press Control A to select the entire range. So we'll just add this, go to the next sheet. We'll do the same, select a cell inside the range, press Control A, add it. Next sheet, same, we'll do the same, add it. All right. And also we'll check top row and left column. Now we'll click on OK. All right. So here Excel has consolidated the names that were there in more than one sheet, or else the name and value has just been appended to the list. So as you can see, the consolidate feature can assemble data for you and roll those figures into a master worksheet. All right, now let's move on to the final chapter of this lesson. In this chapter, we'll take a look at some of the minor features in Excel, which can be immensely helpful when you're just starting off. First, we'll learn how adding notes and comments to a spreadsheet can be helpful, especially when you want to enhance clarity or communicate with others working on the same spreadsheet. Okay, so we have a data set here. So suppose you want to make some changes to the revenue figure and you want to let others know. So let's change this to 45,000. Press Control Enter to remain in the same cell. Now, in order to add a note and let others know what was changed and why, we can just simply click on the Review tab and then under Notes, click on New Note. Type in your note. I'm going to type in includes interest. When you're done typing your note, just click outside the active cell. All right, so adding a new comment is also straightforward. Under Review and Comments, click on New Comment. Type in your comment. I'm going to type in, please review this. And I'm going to press Control Enter first. So while notes are typically used for providing additional information or context, comments are designed for communication and collaboration. Comments allow users to have threaded discussions. This feature is mainly useful when multiple people are working on the same spreadsheet and need to exchange ideas and feedback. All right, moving on to the next portion, let's click on the View tab and check out its features. Let's first take a look at the Zoom group. So suppose you want this data set here to zoom and fit the entire screen. So what we'll do is select the entire range by pressing Control A and then click on Zoom to Selection. You can use this feature when you want to solely focus on a specific portion of the worksheet. To return to normal, you can just click on 100%. All right, you can also set zoom to the right level by clicking on Zoom and then selecting the option that is right for you. All right, now let's take a look at the Windows group under the same tab. First, we have the new window feature, which will create a new window displaying the same workbook. Let's click and see what happens. So at the top, if you notice, you'll be able to see that a second version of this workbook has been created. Now, if I go to a different sheet and then press Alt Tab, I come to the version 1. This feature is very useful when you need to view and work on different parts of the same workbook simultaneously. So I'll just press Control W to close this. And it becomes normal. All right. Next, let's take a look at freeze panes. Now, this feature allows you to lock certain rows or columns in place, keeping them visible while you scroll through the rest of your data. Let's check out how. Here we have a large data set, and when we scroll down, we lose sight of the headers. We don't want that. In order to fix them, what we'll do is we'll click on freeze panes and then select freeze top row. Now, when we scroll down, the top row remains stuck. Now, you can do the same thing with the first column. Now, when we scroll to the right, we can see that the first column is all the way to the left. So we can fix this as well. So what we'll do is we'll click on freeze panes and then click freeze first column. Now, when we scroll to the right, this time you won't lose sight of the important reference data. All right. Now, to remove any freezing applied to rows or columns, simply click on unfreeze panes. All right. Finally, let's customize the quick access toolbar, which is located at the top of the ribbon on the title bar. Now, the quick access toolbar contains a set of commands that are independent of the currently displayed tab on the ribbon. First, let's change the position of the quick access toolbar. Click on the down arrow and then select show below the ribbon. This way, the quick access toolbar becomes much more accessible. Now, by default, save, undo, and redo are the commands that you will see on the quick access toolbar. But we can change this, as all these commands have a shortcut key assigned to them. For example, I always use Control S for saving the file, Control Z for undo, and Control Y for redo. So we'll remove these first, right click on them and select remove from quick access toolbar. We'll do the same for undo and redo. Now let's add some commands which do not have a shortcut key assigned to them. For example, I like to add commands like autofit column width, rename sheet, protect sheet, and so on. So what you need to do is you need to right click on your favorite command and then select add to quick access toolbar. I'll do the same for rename sheet and protect sheet. All right, now remember that you can also access the quick access toolbar using the Alt key. Let's try it out. Press the Alt key once, and you'll notice that certain letters and numbers appear on the ribbon and quick access toolbar. These are called key tips. Now, if we want to auto-fit the column width here, we'll simply select the corresponding key for the quick access toolbar, which in this case is 1. So as you can see, using the Alt key along with key tips allows you to quickly access and execute commands on the quick access toolbar without using the mouse. All right, so this concludes our first lesson. In our next lesson, we will master some intermediate techniques, including flash fill, advanced filtering, data validation, base special, and a lot more. I'll see you all in the next video.